TIFU by conncting to an airport frequency. So, I was 10. I was at a friend's house. So we just play and do some shit. And then he tells me he has walkie-talkies. So, as any normal kids, we'd just play with those. So we switched frequencies. It was pretty silent for all of them until we got in the 16th. For a fact, he lives just outside an airport. So we connect to some frequency. I don't remember which one. Let's say 16.52. And there we hear, Flight 231B. You are authorized for landing on Trace A4 or something like that. So what do I do with my friend, would you ask? We say, yep, that's the good trace. And then the guy there is like, WTF? Why are kids there? We switch frequencies. A few months later, I discover it is a federal crime in my country. TL. Doctor. Me and my friend got on an airport authorization frequency with walkie-talkies. Said shit and then learned it was a federal crime. In the Coast Guard, some kid on Nantucket was goofing around on the emergency frequency and we sent out a couple of guys with a radio direction finder and showed up at his house. His parents were less than pleased. Many years ago, Heathrow Airport, London, had issues with picking up baby monitors from the nearby houses on their frequency. My brother and I literally did the same thing in Germany, just outside an Air Force base. We were a bit more mischievous. We called in a mayday posing as a flight out in the Mediterranean Sea going down. About 3 minutes into our shenanigans, a fighter jet took off from the base at haul-ass speeds in that direction. We thought it was related to our call and promptly put the radio away. Fast forward a few hours, we were on it again. This time someone on the other end started yelling at us. We put it away for good at that point. Normal walkie-talkies use a frequency range that is unregulated and used for all sorts of everyday devices. There has to be more going on with the devices you guys were screwing with. There once was a kid from Milwaukee who screwed up with his walkie-talkie, diverted a flight, so it crashed in the night. He got 20 years in locky. The good news is that almost all cheap walkie-talkies made today are FM and transmit far outside the airband. Airplanes still use AM radio for ATC communications. Old-fashioned and more problematic than FM. But it's just how it is. Many years ago, when I worked for a Microsoft outsourcer, there was a group that supported things like Microsoft mice, keyboards, etc., and Microsoft Actimates Barney the dinosaur. My friend who was working on that project took a call from a user whose Barney would occasionally become possessed. Somehow Barney was picking up air traffic control announcements from the local airport and excitedly talk about takeoffs and landings with his mouth moving and his eyes all animated like he was telling a story. This must be outside of the US, because the walkie-talkies you had when you were a kid doesn't operate on air frequencies. Hell, even a lot of ham radios can't transmit between 118.0 and 136.975 MHz. In case you want to listen in today, it's gotten pretty easy. http://www.websdrag/ I had a set of G.I. Joe walkie-talkies probably about 1987 or so. I left one on one day and it picked up some chatter. Back then I swore it was military. As an adult I honestly couldn't guess what it was. But it was kind of official sounding. Not just my neighbor playing with his kids or something. Oh fuck, that line sent my sides to orbit. Shit, fuck, what do 40-year-olds sound like? Quote. Yep. That's the good trace. Nailed it. My question is, how the hell did you get a VHF radio to talk to ATC as a kid? We use VHF radios to talk to ATC source student pilot here. This sounds a lot like the beginning of Sleep Dealer. Today you are about to discover that your country does not have a statute of limitations on that. Felony. I worked at Target when I was in college. Not long after I quit, they moved to using encrypted radios for this reason. However, fast forward 10 years. My buddy and I find a Target company walkie in a car he bought. So we take it, boost the power and attach it to one of our long range antenna. It's one thing to fuck with a store's radio in their parking lot. It's a whole different game doing it from across town. Poor Susan got called to the fitting room needlessly so often. I am honestly impressed a couple kids had their hands on some shortwave capable walkie-talkies lol. But yeah, I am almost certain it's a federal crime in most countries to operate shortwave without an operator's license, let alone interfering in specific bands. That's one of the things they teach you when you go to get your license. There's generally an allowance of free bands you will be permitted access to broadcast on. You could HV tried saying, a black cat just ran across the runway so I am not gonna land. Today I fucked up. Yeah, this was when I was 10. I'm 30 now. Also, the op has a nice posting history about me. Quite interesting. That. I see an alleged troubled youth of 15 years of age who should ask their parents about their acne and girlfriend and insecurity issues. And not Reddit. But who am I to tell others what they should do? I'm more astounded how an alleged 15-year-old can give relationship advice to a guy who's 28-year-old GF is pregnant. And that this 15-year-old knows about ratios regarding payouts during maternal leave. That kid has seen everything. Apparently. The trolls grow up so fast these days. You're going to have a hard time making AM contacts on an FM walkie-talkie. Completely different ways of compressing and modulating the sound. I'm a federally licensed radio operator. Unless the handhelds you had were borrowed from someone with an aviation transceiver, this story isn't holding any water. Even my ham radio handhelds can only monitor those frequencies. Crappy little Chinese radios with zero limitations on the operating frequencies don't have AM capability. This just doesn't add up. Anyone else from the aviation field care to chime in? Can a Mars-modded ham radio base station transmit AM on airbands? That's a question I'm now curious to answer. We finally found you after all these years investigating. Bake him away, toys.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.